So for our discussion today, we will be discussing lesson 2 of module 5, which is about transport and circulation. As I have said in our previous discussions or during our orientation for the second quarter, we will be discussing plant and animal transport. So in terms of we will be discussing the plants first, and then for the animals, we will be focusing more on the lesser complex forms of organisms. Kasi yung humans ay I will let the ANFI teachers do their thing in discussing yung sa human transport and circulation. Okay? So for the transport in vascular plants, we always have to remember that plants have various adaptations that aid in the acquisition of resources, including water, minerals, carbon dioxide, and light. If you will remember our past discussions, na yung stress ng halaman, they can turn it into something beneficial for them. So, plants are really good they have a really good sense of relieving their stress by turning it to something beneficial for them. Okay, ano ba yung example ng mga adaptation ng plants? For example, yung mga pine trees. So if you will visualize yung pine trees, di ba yung kanyang shape is inverted cone. So bakit ba siya inverted cone? Nasaan ba yung mga pine trees? Di ba ang pine trees are located on areas na malalamig, high altitude areas like Tagaytay, Baguio. So ano ba yung adaptation? Bakit ganoon yung pine trees? Or ba't ganoon yung shape ng pine trees? This is to withstand the harsh winds on that high altitude areas, on those high altitude areas. So ito ay form din ng plants in order for them to maximize the acquisition of resources, even yung light, capturing light energy, and including water resources. So ito yung isa lang sa mga naging adaptation. Another example would be yung mga succulents. So example ng succulents would be cactus. So common misconception sa bio would be ang leaves daw ng cactus, yung kulay green na nakikita ninyo. It's not the leaves of the cactus. The leaves of the cactus would be the spikes or yung mga tinik ng cactus. Yun po yung leaves nila. Yung kulay green na nakikita nyo sa cactus, ito po ay stem. Okay? So ano yung form of adaptation ng bakit ganun yung structure ng cactus? It's because yung leaves, kaya spikes lang yung leaves ng cactus is to conserve water. Kasi nasan ba yung mga succulents? Nasa arid areas, nasa dry areas, nasa desert. Okay? So, kaya malaki naman yung stem niya, yung kulay green ng cactus. It's because for the storage of water. Okay? Kasi pag leaves yung madami, maraming mag-aagaw-agaw dyan sa water. Unlike kapag stem lang, isa lang yan, storage lang ng water. So, the reason why, yun yung form of adaptation ng cactus sa mga arid areas or sa mga deserts. Okay? So, ayan, leaves. And then, the success of plants depends on their ability to gather resources from their environment and transport them to where they are needed. So, kagaya ng previous discussion, plants are the main producers of the food chain. So, for them to be considered as successful producers, they have to gather enough resources for not only for the consumers, para sa atin, but also for themselves. So before they will nurture the environment or before they will nurture the consumers of the food chain, they have to nurture themselves first. Okay, para yan sa totoong buhay, bago kayo magmahal ng ibang tao, mahalin mo niya ang inyong sarili. Okay? So ayan po. Gumaya kayo sa plants before they nurture the consumers of the food chain, they have to nurture themselves first. Okay? And then, adaptations for acquiring resources were key steps in the evolution of vascular plants. If you have a background on the history of life on Earth, you will learn that yung Earth nung primitive times ay more on aquatic resources lang. Kumbaga kung ngayon, 1/4 ng surface ng Earth ay landmass, dati kasi nasa 1/8 or 1/16 lang yung portion ng landmass. And during these times, yung plants were all submerged in water. But due to evolution, nagkaroon din naman ng land plants wherein they absorbed water, minerals, and carbon dioxide directly from the surrounding water. And early non-vascular land plants live in shallow water and had aerial shoots. So ano ba yung mga non-vascular land plants na nauna? Ito yung mga moss, yung mga bryophytes. Another common misconception sa biology, ang sabi nila, ang lumot daw ay algae. Ang algae po ay hindi lumot. Ang lumot po ay moss, ito po ay bryophytes. Okay? So again, ang common misconception, ang lumot po ay hindi algae. Ito po ay moss, which is under phylum Bryophyta. Okay? And then, the evolution of xylem and phloem, ito yung mga non-vascular plants kasi, when we say non-vascular plants, they don't have the organs or the parts that will transport water and nutrients for them. So, sobrang liit, gaya ng mga lumot, sobrang liit nila, hindi na kailangan ng vascular tissues or yung mga vascularized organs. And another result of evolution is that once the land plants have dominated the land, so nangyayari, meron ng long distance transport of water kasi lumalaki na yung mga plants. Okay? Not only water but also minerals and products of photosynthesis. So ano ba itong mga vascular tissues na ito? Ito po ay xylem and phloem. When we say xylem, this is the one responsible for transporting water and minerals from roots to shoots. Ano ba yung roots at saka ano yung shoots? If you recall your bio class from your junior high days, meron tayong dalawang system ng plants. We have the root system and the shoot system. Pag sinabing root system, from the name itself, ito yung roots ng plants. Kapag naman shoot system, ito yung parts ng plant except the roots. Okay, again, root and shoot system. Kapag root system, this is exclusively the roots of the plants. And then kapag naman shoot system, these are the parts of the plants except the roots. Ito yung leaves, stem, flowers, fruits. Ito yung shoot system. Okay, so going back to xylem, this is the structure responsible for transporting water and minerals from the roots going to the shoots. Okay? While phloem, ito naman yung structure responsible for transporting photosynthetic products from where they are made to where they are needed. So, common misconception again, kung ang xylem ay from roots to shoots, ang iniisip ng iba, ang phloem baliktad, from shoots to roots. Pero ang phloem kasi, hindi ibig sabihin na nag-photosynthesize sa leaves, automatic sa roots agad yung diretso. Pwedeng nag-photosynthesize sa leaves, tapos hanggang stem lang. Or pwedeng sa fruit, pwedeng sa flower, pwede rin sa roots. So yung phloem, always remember, ito lang ay transport of photosynthetic products from where they are made to where they are needed. So they might be needed sa leaves, sa other leaves, they might be needed sa stem, they might be needed sa fruits, sa flowers, or sa roots, depende. Okay, but it doesn't mean na from shoots to roots ang transport ng phloem. Okay? And then, this is just an illustration on how transport happens in plants. So you have here water and minerals. Ayan. They will be transported from the root system going up to the shoot system, while yung phloem via xylem, and then yung phloem naman will transport the photosynthetic products from the area they were made, which is commonly the leaves, to the area where they are needed. So, pwedeng sa stem, pwedeng sa flowers, pwedeng sa leaves, or pwedeng sa roots. Okay, so if you recall, meron tayong mga modified stem, yung mga tuber, meron tayong mga modified roots, yung mga bulb, yung mga onion. So, ito po ay product ng transport through the phloem. So, yung mga excessive na sugar, pwede silang i-store sa stem, pwede rin naman sa roots, or pwede sa flower or sa fruits. Okay? And then, for the shoot architecture and light capture, stem serves as conduits for water and nutrients and as supporting structure for the leaves. So, shoot length and branching pattern affect light capture. So, particularly, yung mga, lalo na yung mga nasa forested area, if you can visualize the forest, kalimitan, yung mga nandun sa lower canopy layer or nandun sa forest floor, kalimitan sila yung pinakamaliliit na organism or mga species kasi they cannot capture enough light. Okay? Yun din yung isang reason kung bakit yung mga lumot, yung mga moss, ay ganoon lang din kaliit. Although meron silang pang-capture ng light, possible na yung kanilang stem-like structure hindi enough para ma-reach ng sunlight. Okay? And then there is a trade-off between growing tall and branching. The more energy invested into branching, the less energy available for growth in height. So para silang inverse relationship, yung branching and growth in height. For there is generally a positive correlation between water availability and leaf size. So specifically, if you have a larger area for the leaf, then technically you will have more water available for the plant. And then we have phyllotaxy. When we say phyllotaxy, this is the arrangement of leaves on a stem and is a species-specific trait important for light capture. So itong phyllotaxy na ito yung arrangement ng leaves. You might be seeing some leaves na nakalagay sa stem, magkatapat yung leaves. Yung iba naman alternate. Yung iba naman isang leaf sa isang stem. So ito yung phyllotaxy. If you will be taking up higher bio classes in the future, you will study yung phyllotaxy. Pero pag ata health-related sciences, parang wala ata kayong botany. So most angiosperms have alternate phyllotaxy with leaves arranged in a spiral manner. So may example ng angiosperm, ito yung mga flowering plants. They have alternate phyllotaxy in a spiral manner. So itong mga yan, yung reason kung bakit ganyan yung kanyang structure, meron din yang effect dun sa kanyang light capturing ability and even yung resources gathering ability ng plant. Okay, so lahat ng ginawa na bagay sa mundo, meron niyang function. Okay? And then, the total area of the leafy portions of all the plants in the community affects the productivity of each plant. Aside from that, self-pruning, which is the shedding of lower shaded leaves, occurs when they respire more than photosynthesize. So ito rin yung reason kung bakit if you observe yung mga virgin forests, di ba yung mga virgin forest, may mga upper canopy layer sila, or when we say upper canopy layer, ito yung matataas na mga puno, tapos parang sobrang konti ng leaves nila, parang ano lang sila, parang payong lang. So yun yung isang reason, or yun yung isang indication na ang tree is functioning more for respiration rather than photosynthesis. So ito rin yung reason kung bakit kapag nagputol ng puno, nagkaroon ng deforestation, sobrang iinit yung lugar. Kasi yung forest na yun is kaya nga tinatawag na lungs of the earth. Kasi they are functioning more to respire rather than photosynthesize. Okay? Another fun fact about bio is that when you cut down trees, ang nangyayari dyan, bakit siya iinit aside from taking away the shade from yung protection against the sunlight, ang isang reason kung bakit umiinit kapag nagputol ng puno ay dahil yung tree na pinuno, nire-release niya yung carbon dioxide na na-absorb niya nung siya ay nabubuhay pa. Okay? Kung hindi man 100%, may portion ng na-absorb niyang carbon dioxide ang nire-release niya back into the atmosphere. Okay? So yun yung isang downside ng pagpuputol ng puno. Kasi these trees, they really function to respire and also photosynthesize. Pero ang main function, lalo na yung mga malaking trees, is to respire. So in the future, if you will be businessmen, wag na sana kayo magputol ng puno. Okay? And then, there are different mechanisms that transport substances over short or long distances. So we have two major transport pathways, the apoplast at saka yung symplast. So when we say short or long distances, there are some cases na maliit lang yung stem, so konti lang yung kailangang i-transport. And then there are also cases na long yung shoot length or yung stem length, so mahaba yung kailangang i-transport. When we say apoplast, the apoplast root consists of everything external to the plasma membrane. Ano ba yung structure na external sa plasma membrane? Ito yung cell wall, extracellular spaces, and the interior of dead cells such as vessel elements and tracheids. So for the vessel elements at saka tracheids, no need to know them yet because you are just taking general biology. But always remember, ang apoplast po ay everything external to the plasma membrane. And then for the symplast, kabaligtaran naman siya, it consists of the cytosol of all the living cells in a plant as well as the plasmodesmata. So recall lang yung plasmodesmata, ito po yung junctions or ito yung connections ng ating mga cell wall or plasma membrane. So yung apoplast root, I will show you later ano ba yung difference ng transport nila, yung image. And when you say apoplast root, the water and solutes go through cell walls and extracellular spaces kasi siya ay apoplast. Remember, kapag apoplast, ito po ay structures outside the plasma membrane. So if you will look at this image, yung apoplastic root, ito lang siya outside the plasma membrane. Yung kanyang transport of water and nutrients. While the symplastic root, when we say symplastic root, this is where water and solutes cross a plasma membrane once and then travel through the cytosol. So yung symplastic root, if you will look at this image, it will just pass through the plasma membrane once and then it will gather it will go through the cytosol. So, di ba, if you recall, meron diyang, yung symplast root, meron ginagamit niya yung plasmodesmata, which is the connection between the different between the different cells. And then, when we say transmembrane root, this is where the water and solutes repeatedly cross plasma membranes as they pass from cell to cell. So, ito yung transmembrane root. Kanina, kapag symplastic root, isang pass lang sa plasma membrane and then cytosol na all throughout. While the transmembrane root, they will pass through the plasma membrane several times, several plasma membranes, and then they will also pass through the cytosol. Okay, so yan po yung difference ng apoplastic, symplastic, and transmembrane roots. May question ba so far? Baka may question. Okay. So, short distance transport of solute across plasma membranes. So, kung meron tayong long distance transport, meron din tayong short distance transport. But I will not be discussing more of this because if you will see here, ito rin yung discuss ninyo nung kayo ay grade 11. Yung sa inyong, yung active and passive transport. So, kalimitan kasi ng short distance transport sa plants is managed by active and passive transport. Ito yung mga sodium-potassium bump, ion channels, membrane potential. So, all of them are under short-distance transport. And then, another example of transport mechanism for short-distance transport is osmosis. So, yung osmosis, if you recall from Bio 1, this is the diffusion of water in and out of the cell from an area of higher concentration going to an area of lower concentration. So, as I have said earlier, I will not discuss more of this because you have discussed this in Bio 1. So, yung osmosis, di ba, meron dyan yung hypertonic, isotonic, hypotonic. Pag hypertonic, we call the cell plasmolysed. Pag naman isotonic, ito ay flaccid. Kapag hypotonic, ito po ay turgid. So, hopefully, you still remember the lessons from Bio 1. Okay? And yung mga yan, they exert trigger pressure when the pressure exerted by the plasma membrane against the cell wall and the cell wall against the protoplast. Okay? So, yan lang yan. Flaccid, plasmolysed, and turgid. And then, we also have the aquaporins. So, aquaporins, these are the transport proteins in the cell membrane that facilitates the passage of water. Although, yung water molecules can pass through the membrane easily, kapag kasi nire-require ng plant yung bulk transport or i-require ng plant yung huge amount of water, it needs the structure aquaporin for them to transport water rapidly. Okay? So, opening and closing of aquaporins affect the rate of osmotic water movement across the membrane. And then, we also have transpiration. So, paano ba nagkakaroon ng, kung halimbawa, long distance transport, how does water go up to the shoot system? So, plants move large volumes of water from their roots to shoots every day. And according to the cohesion tension hypothesis, transpiration and water cohesion pull water from the shoots to roots. So always remember kapag xylem ang pinag-uusapan, ito yung transport of water molecules. So yung process of transporting water molecules from the roots going to shoots, you call them yung cohesion tension hypothesis. And this is brought about by transpiration. What is transpiration? When we say transpiration, this is the process wherein the water molecules evaporate from the surface of the leaves. Okay, yun yung transpiration, yung evaporation of water molecules from the leaves. So for these leaves not to be dried out, kailangan nila ng continuous supply of water, and that's what cohesion tension hypothesis will explain. So, ano ba nangyayari sa cohesion tension hypothesis? Di ba sabi ko sa inyo, during transpiration, there is an evaporation of water molecules from the surface of the leaves. So, if that's the case, pag na-dehydrate po yung leaves ng plant, there will be a tension dun sa specific portion ng plant na yon, which is the leaves. And this tension, kaya siya cohesion tension theory, yung tension na yun ay caused by transpiration or evaporation of water. So once the tension is exerted or observed in the plant, it will signal the plant to carry water molecules from the roots going to the shoots. Okay? So ano yung, again, paano nagkakaroon ng tension? Bakit siya cohesion tension hypothesis? Kasi when the event of transpiration happens, when you say transpiration again, this is the evaporation of water molecules from the surface of the leaves. So once the leaves run out of water, they will signal the plant to deliver water from the roots going to the shoots. So yun yung tension part ng hypothesis. Nasaan yung cohesion? So for the water molecules to go up directly to the leaves needing the water, di ba recall yung properties of water? They have the adhesive at saka cohesive forces. Remember, yung xylem po is solid. And water molecules are attracted to solid. Kaya sila nag-a-adhere sa xylem. Nasaan yung cohesive forces or yung cohesion? When we say cohesion, ito yung togetherness ng water molecules. Ito yung pagkakaisa ng water molecules. That once one molecule goes up, it will pull the other one to go up also. Okay, yun yung cohesion. So due to cohesive forces ng water molecules, they tend to go up to the shoot system. Yun yung cohesion tension theory. Again, pag tension, it is brought about by transpiration, and then cohesion, this is the process, or it aids in the process of transporting water molecules from the shoots going to the roots. Okay, I will proceed with ito yung sinasabi kong cohesion and adhesion. So yung water molecules adhere to the xylem, yung cell wall ng xylem, and then due to the cohesive forces, yung mga hydrogen bonds existing between water molecules, once one molecule of water goes up, the other molecules will also go up because of the cohesive forces. Okay? And then, as I have said earlier, there are also plant adaptation that reduce evaporative water loss. Ito yung nasabi kong mga succulents. We call them xerophytes. So yung xerophytes, they are plants adapted to arid climates, and they often have fleshy stems that store water or leaf modification that reduce the rate of transpiration. So ito yung example ko kayo sa cactus at saka sa mga ibang succulents. So they only have fleshy stems, pero yung leaf ay maliit lang, kagaya ng spikes ng cactus. That is to reduce the rate of transpiration or loss of water. Okay? And then, example lang ito ng xerophytes, pero ito kasi ay hindi mo siya nakikita locally. That's why ang best example for xerophytes would be mga cactus and the other succulents. Okay? And then, we are done with the xylem. Next naman po ay yung phloem. So yung, paano ba naman tinatransport yung photosynthetic products from the source going to the other parts of the plants? So the products of photosynthesis are transported through phloem by the process of translocation. Kanina sa xylem, ang process ay brought about, the transport in xylem is caused by transpiration. Ngayon naman, ang products of phloem would be, the products of photosynthesis will be transported through the process of translocation. Okay? So kung kanina sa yung dalawang parts, yung dalawang systems ng plant, yung shoot at saka root system, ngayon naman, meron tayong tinatawag na phloem sap. Okay, sa xylem, di ba, tinatransport ay water molecules. Baka you might be wondering, kasi ang product ng photosynthesis ay sugar, you might be saying that the phloem is transporting solid particles. No. Yung phloem would be transporting also the phloem sap. When you say phloem sap, this is an aqueous solution that is high in sucrose. Remember, ang product ng photosynthesis ay sugar, and that's why this will be mixed together with water to produce the phloem sap. Later, I will be showing you ano ba yung phloem sap. And then, it travels from a sugar source to a sugar sink. So, kaya siya translocation going from the source down to the sink. Ano ba yung sugar source? When we say sugar source, ito po yung organ that is net producer of the sugar. Specifically, ito yung mga leaves. Okay? Kasi nasa kanila yung photosynthetic organs ng plants. Okay? And then, when we say sugar sink, ito naman yung consumer or ito yung depository of sugar, particularly yung other parts like the roots, yung buds, at saka yung fruits. Okay? So, yung always remember, ang phloem po never transports solid particles. It transports the phloem sap, which is an aqueous solution containing a high concentration of sucrose. And then, it travels from the sugar source going to a sugar sink. Kapag sugar source, ito yung source or producer of sugar, which is commonly the mature leaves. And then, yung sugar sink naman is an organ responsible or consumer of depository sugar such as roots, buds, and fruits. Okay? Ano ba yung process ng, by the way, a storage organ can be a sugar sink in summer and a sugar source in spring. So, bakit ganon? Yung storage organ kasi, why can it be a sugar sink during summer? Kasi during summer, sobrang taas ng productivity rate or photosynthetic rate ng mga plants. So, dahil mataas yung photosynthetic rate, they will require a lot of storage for the excess materials. So, bakit siya nagiging sugar source naman in spring? Remember that plants, they shed their leaves during winter. Nalalagas yung leaves nila. Bakit po? Yun po ay form of adaptation for the harsh winter kasi it's either absent yung sunlight and they also want to conserve water. So, paano siya nagiging sugar source? Di ba after ng winter, magkakaroon ng spring. So, spring, ito yung pagtubo ng mga bagong leaves, mga bagong fruits, bagong flowers. So, plants use the storage organ as a sugar source during spring to synthesize ano ba yung mga kailangan niya ng season na yun. Okay? And then, ito yung sasabi ko kayo na transport or translocation dun sa phloem sap. Okay, so you have here your sugar source, which is commonly the leaves. Ito yung andyan yung sucrose. And it will go out of the phloem, tapos it will mix with water to produce the phloem sap. So once na yan ay mag-mix na, meron na kayong aqueous solution which is high in sucrose concentration. Next naman will be the unloading of sugar or yung unloading ng phloem sap doon sa sugar sink. Ito yung other parts ng plant. Pwedeng sa roots, pwedeng sa stems. And then, after na ma-unload yung sugar from the phloem sap, the water will be recycled ng plants which will go doon sa xylem. Okay? So, ito po yung process ng translocation. You have here the sugar source, and then it will release sucrose. And once na ma-release siya, meron dyang water which will form the phloem sap, an aqueous solution. Ito yung uptake of water which will form the phloem sap, and after that, it will be delivered sa sugar sink. Ito yung other parts ng plant like the roots, pwedeng stems, and it will unload the sugar. After unloading the sugar, magre-recycle naman ng water. And that water will go back to the xylem for transport. Okay, so we will proceed with animal transport system. So for the animal transport system, ito po ay common, kung sa humans, ang main distributor ng nutrients would be our blood from our circulatory system. Likewise din siya sa lesser complex forms of organism. They have the circulatory system, which link exchange surfaces with cells throughout the body. So yung small molecules can move between cells and their surroundings by diffusion. And diffusion is only efficient over small distances because the time it takes to diffuse is proportional to the square of the distance. And in some animals, many or all cells are in direct contact with the environment. And in most animals, cells exchange materials with the environment via a fluid-filled circulatory system. So there are some animals that lack a circulatory system. So what do they have is what we call the gastrovascular cavities, which function in both digestion and distribution of substances throughout the body. So ano ba yung mga nidarians? Ang nidarians po ay mga jellyfish. Another example ng may gastrovascular cavity, poriferans, or yung mga sponges. Si SpongeBob po, siya ay under phylum Porifera. And then, the body wall that encloses the gastrovascular cavity is only 2 cells thick. And then there are also the flatworms, which have gastrovascular cavity and a flat body that minimizes diffusion distances. So, sa nidarian, sa jellyfish, ayan yung mouth nila. And then, andyan na rin yung gastrovascular cavity. Okay? And then you have here the flatworm, you have the gastrovascular cavity, and isa lang yung kanilang opening for both the nutrients at saka sa kanilang waste product. Okay? And then we have 2 types of circulatory systems, the open at saka yung closed circulatory system. Ano ba yung qualification muna para masabi na yung isang system ay circulatory system? Una-una, kailangan meron tayong circulatory fluid, and then there is also a set of interconnecting vessels and a muscular pump, particularly the heart. Okay, so circulatory systems can be open or closed. Ano yung difference between the two? So yung insects, other arthropods, and some mollusks, ang kanilang circulatory fluid is called the hemolymph, which bathes the organs directly in an open circulatory system. So sa open circulatory system, ang tawag po sa circulatory fluid ay hemolymph. While in the closed circulatory system, ang tawag naman po sa cardiovascular fluid would be yung blood, or yung circulatory fluid, which is the blood. And it is confined into vessels and is distinct from the interstitial fluid. These are commonly observed in annelids, cephalopods, and vertebrates. So ano ba yung difference between the two? So yung open circulatory system, as you can see, open naman talaga siya. Hindi siya kagaya ng closed circulatory system na merong continuum yung mga vessels. So dito, meron lang portion na mag-enter yan sa heart, tapos distributed na throughout the body. Ito yung hemolymph. While sa closed circulatory system, meron tayong mga network of vessels wherein the blood will flow through, and meron yang ang tawag sa circulatory fluid ay blood. Yung isa ay hemolymph. Okay? Open circulatory system. We also have the closed circulatory system. And then we also have the single circulation, which is mostly observed in bony fishes, rays, and sharks. Ang common or ang distinguishing characteristic ng single circulation would be yung 2-chambered heart. So in single circulation, blood leaving the heart passes through the 2 capillary beds before returning. So you have here the blood which leaves the heart, and it will pass through capillary network, tapos another capillary network, and then it will return to the heart for pumping. Okay? Pag naman double circulation, this is commonly observed in amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. So ito naman, oxygen-poor and oxygen-rich bloods are pumped separately from the right and left sides of the heart. Commonly, ito yung may mga four-chambered heart. Okay? So, di ba yung kanina sa single circulation, two-chambered heart, pero dito sa double circulation, mostly ay four-chambered heart. Okay? So, I will not delve more into this kasi nasa book nyo naman siya. Kapag reptiles, anong characteristic, anong circuit, kapag amphibians, and other animals. Okay? So, meron kasi ibang tawag sa circuit ng mga amphibian. And then, we have gas exchange. So, for the gas exchange, it occurs in specialized respiratory surfaces. When we say gas exchange, ito po ay uptake of oxygen from the environment and the discharge of carbon dioxide to the environment. So, yung respiratory surfaces takes place by diffusion. So, I hope nakapag-discuss na kayo sa ANAFI ng respiration. You will see there na yung oxygen, nag-diffuse siya sa blood. Likewise, yung carbon dioxide, it also diffuses dun sa blood. Okay? There are some respiratory surfaces which vary by animal and can include the skin, gills, tracheae, and lungs. So, depende yan sa animals kung ano yung kanilang respiratory organ. For the gills in aquatic animals, these are outfoldings of the body that create a large surface area for gas exchange. So, the ventilation process moves the respiratory medium over the respiratory surface. So, yung aquatic animals move through water or move water over their gills for ventilation. Kaya napaka-imposibleng mamatay ang isang isda dahil sa pagkalunod. Okay? Commonly kasi namatay talaga mga isda, natural death or pwedeng poisoning, yung sa mga dynamite, fishing, ganyan. Okay? And then, ito yung example lang ng gills na nandun sa mga aquatic animals. But no need to memorize yung mga structures niya kasi hindi naman tayo zoology class. Okay? And then, for fish gills, this one is also for zoology class, so I will not be discussing that anymore. Ito yung example ng gills sa isda. And then, we have the tracheal system, ang insects. So, tracheal system of insects consists of a network of branching tubes throughout the body, and these tracheal tubes supply oxygen directly to body cells. The respiratory system and circulatory systems are separate in insects, and larger insects must ventilate their tracheal system to meet oxygen demands. So if you look at this diagram, you will see here na ito yung tracheal tube nila, which is the passageway of the air. And as you can see also here, marami siyang tracheal openings dito in order for it to meet the demands of the oxygen, yung needed oxygen of the insect. So, the larger the insect is, kailangan mas madami siyang tracheal tubes or trachea. Okay? And then, of course, we have the lungs. So, yung lungs are enfoldings of the body surface. The circulatory system, either open or closed, transports gases between the lungs and the rest of the body. So, the size and complexity of lungs correlate with an animal's metabolic rate. So, itong lungs will be discussed, of course, in your anatomy class. And that's the end of our discussion for Lesson 2 of Module 5.